And welcome back, everyone, to the RLT Pivot Podcast. I'm so glad you could join us once again. And I am here with my amazing co host, Mr. Dan Jansen. How are you doing, sir?
Doing so good to be back. I had a little time off, and then we had, of course, 4th of July here in the U.S., so another closed day of the market. So this is our first day that we're recording this, that the market's open, so I'm always get the adrenaline pumping for when that happens. So very, very thrilled to be here, be back, market's open, feeling good. How about you? Everything's good?
I'm glad to have you back, I gotta say. So,
I know you missed me. I know you did. You didn't even know I wasn't here. Don't lie. So
it's okay.
So we figured since we're back, and we do see it. I mean, the market is down 7 straight months in a row. There's probably a lot of frustration out there in the market, a lot of frustrated traders, a lot of chop in the market. So we figured, hey, let's use this opportunity to talk about real life stuff that we're actually facing in the markets ourselves. So I know, Tracy, you're probably you don't take bad trades ever. They only work. But what else? What's really hitting you in the markets currently? What's some of the things that you've seen today that maybe 7 months ago you didn't really have to deal with?
Well, first of all, let's just set the record straight because I hear that all the time that I have these perfect trades and I never lose. And that's crap. I gotta say, that is just crap. I lose just like everybody else does. The difference is I don't let it get to me. And even that's not always true. There's some days where I struggle emotionally with my trading. And I have to say, some of the biggest struggles that I have had and that I've been going through this year have been, first of all, I have been increasing my R. And this year I doubled it again. And there's a certain number when I get to that number, for whatever reason, there's a block in my brain that I start to really, the fear and the anxiety starts to kick in. And it's a specific number. So it's not the fact that I doubled my R, it's the fact that I hit that number and I've had to work through it. So I could take a lower R, double it, double it, double it, double it, double it, and I don't have that same issue. But as soon as I hit that cap, whatever that thermometer number is that I have in my brain, that's where the anxiety and the fear starts to kick in. So I have been dealing with that pretty much all year. I'm over it now, I think. I'm pretty much over it. I had to go through a few losses and really feel the pain of those losses at that number. And I think that desensitized me to it. I think I'm finally there. Because normally what would happen is, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point that you bring in. Not to cut in, but because I suffer that same anxiety. I guess it's always like the beginning for me. It takes about a month or two to get kind of used to that new R. What would you say that you think calculates into that fear? What's causing that fear? Do you think it's something that you because a lot of traders that I talk to, I think they just feel like they don't deserve to be at that level, right? Because it's like it's a new territory that they're at. So I've seen people that feel like they just got to wrap their mind around, like, no, this is where I'm at. Like, I'm good enough for this. And then I got the other half people that are more scared than afraid to be at where the level they're at. So they're more scared of, like, okay, now I'm at this bigger level, and like it's just a whole new concept of how to handle that money. Still trying to detach yourself from real life and the market.
It could be any one of those things. I personally think that for me, what has happened is that in the past, I've hit that number before and I wasn't ready to. And because I hit that number before and I wasn't ready to, I didn't succeed at that number. So I've got it in my head saying that that's kind of like my limitation. And now I'm testing those limits. And anytime I've tested them before, I wasn't quite ready. So that anxiety would kick in. And then what I would do is I'd reduce my R again as soon as I started losing. And I just would never work through it. And this time I was ready for it. So I hit that number. And of course, the fear and the anxiety start to kick in. You start to do stupid things. And there was a couple other little factors that were playing into that. But I pushed through and I didn't. I fought through that desire to reduce the R and not face that fear. And I finally did. So that, like I said, I finally have gotten to a place where I have desensitized myself around that number. And from an account size perspective, I mean, I'm playing with still only half an R, or sorry, half a percent of my account is my full R, but it's still a big number. And like I said before, that hitting that number previously when I wasn't ready kind of set that benchmark. It set that thermometer, that limit switch, that the next time I hit it, there was going to be some kind of mental block that was created from that initial experience. And it's no different than our very first experience in the market. Our very first experience in the markets in general, if it's a bad experience, is going to taint the way that you look at the markets for the rest of your career. Sometimes it'll even keep you from staying in the market. You might just vanish altogether, which is unfortunate. That first impression is very important. So those impressions set limitations in our brain that need to be overcome. So for me, that's what it was. For others, it might be that feeling of, I don't deserve this or whatever it was. But in that case, you're not ready to be at that number anyway. That's my take on it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime in my actual plan, I have when to raise, which I'm sure you do, when to raise your R. But the one thing you said that is phenomenal. I mean, besides everything else you said phenomenally, but the one thing that really stood out is when you said I hit that level, but I'm not ready for it. Like I wasn't ready for it. And I think that's true in a lot of sense. Where a lot of people, and that kind of goes to the first part of like, do you feel like you're not really supposed to be at that level? That's where I think a lot of people they get to that and they just like it's got to be luck. There's no way I got here. You're not mentally prepared. You see that bigger number change on your screen, and that does affect you emotionally. And persistence, I think, is absolutely the right way to go. I've never seen somebody successful at anything that quit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If they quit, they're not going to be successful. Obviously, doing whatever career choice or whatever task that they're trying to accomplish. So I think there's a little I would say probably a lot of that persistency. If you feel like giving up, that's the time to go harder. If
Well,
it's something that you actually enjoy, something that you actually like, you got to stick with it. You got to be persistent with it. And
mhm,
no matter, you're never going to experience a $5,000 R if you never made it past the $2,000 R,
mhm,
right? You're never going to have a $2,000 R if you never made it past the $500 R.
mhm.
And it's just one of those things that you got to keep on building. And you're only battling against yourself. So I see
Mhm.
that a lot with people. I would say my
Before you move on,
yeah.
I want to just address that for a second because the persistence I think needs to come at the right time. So
Yep.
as I said before, I wasn't ready the first time I hit that number mentally, and I needed to pull back. Being persistent at that time would have been the wrong thing for me to do. I needed to actually pull back the reins, resettle, and make sure that I had some other issues that were taken care of. And a lot of those were, again, mental blocks about worth and value and all that kind of stuff. The second or the next time that I hit this number, like this most recent time that I hit this number, that was the time for me to be persistent because I knew I was ready, but I had the tools that I needed to actually battle some of the emotions that were going to come my way. And that's knowing yourself and understanding where you're at. I think that is really key and very important. So there's nothing wrong with getting to a specific limit and realize, you know what, I need more training. Taking it back and training and giving yourself more training.
And
What you're
just to be
saying with,
clear,
yep, with
just
the
to be clear, when I say persistent, I meant you didn't get to that level, get rejected from that level, and then you just gave up completely. So
exactly.
persistency
Yeah,
to continue with what you're doing, but yes,
exactly.
obviously
Okay.
taking in some kind of consideration for why didn't it work, what
Yeah,
happened differently from this point as opposed to what you previously traded
for
would make
sure.
sense for sure.
Perfect. Just wanted to clarify that. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Now, how about you? What are you struggling with currently in the markets?
I the one thing, and I don't know if it's even I don't even know. There's certain times where it's stronger than others, but it's probably always in the market. But I think it just for me stands out a lot more now. It's to me the market is so obvious that it it kills me, right?
Mm,
So the market is obviously like there's so much in the economy, so much in the world, so much like inflation wise, and you could just you're like some of the valuations of stocks to me are still very, very high, and I'm like, everything's got to come down. And it's the for me, it's predicting where it's going to go, and then it not happening right away.
Mhm.
Right? It's like, well, yeah, you're gonna have some bullish moves. So I constantly have the bias, which is probably not a good thing to have in the market. And I try to just leave that bias, the overall bigger picture, at the door when that bell rings in the every single day. And I try to create a new bias as to at least for how I look to overcome it. Try to be like, who's trapped today, right?
Mhm.
What is the sentiment today? Because otherwise, I would just be shorting everything, and I it would just be very frustrating on those bullish days where I'd just be looking for reversals every single day. Now it's there was 1 or 2 days where I spent just chasing them. Like, this thing's got it. There's nothing good going on in the economy right now. There's nothing. This market's got to turn today. It's got to turn today, and it didn't. There was probably a few months ago. It was like 9, 10, like the market was starting to crash a little bit. There was like 9, 10, 11, 12 days of just straight bullishness, straight buying, not a red day to be had. And you're like, this doesn't make sense. So for me, I which again, it could be just I don't think it's just this market. I think it's in general. I think we all kind of create that bias as to what should be happening. But the market doesn't work on your time frame. It doesn't work on my time frame. It works. The correct price is the price that it's listed at, right? So you're just trying to make that biases as to which direction it's going to go. And if it's not happening, you have to be able to be nimble, be flexible, be able to adjust your overall bias. Because if you're wrong, especially on a certain direction of something, and you're just stubborn, it would just wipe you out. So I try not to get into these stubborn mindsets and let the bias lead the way, and I try to let the charts kind of just direct the trades a little bit better. So it's one of the things I've been constantly just trying to work on and work on and work on just to get better at it for sure.
So, what are some of the things that you're doing to? Because we all know this when we're not trading and the emotions aren't present. We know that we shouldn't be biased. We know blah blah blah. But when the emotions are present, it's so much harder to put what you know into action. So, what are some of the tips that you have in order to prevent yourself from taking a bias when things are rumbling and rolling?
Yeah, that's a good point. I would say kind of like what I addressed before, where you have to look at each day as a new market. And I kind of developed this little bit of a mindset where only what happened yesterday is relevant to today. When
Hmm.
we're talking terms of day trading, obviously if you're going for swing trades, you want more directional plays. You want longer term basis as to when to contribute from the long term and all that stuff, and just kind of follow those plans. But I've been just waking up every single day, fresh start, saying the only thing that matters is yesterday and today. Who's being
Okay.
trapped? Where's that bias coming in from where's people going to panic, and at what levels are they going to panic? And I've been able to kind of just interpret where I would think they would be, and then I'm just playing the chart very short term mind frame, because longer term, yeah, I don't think we've seen, personally, my bias, I don't think we've seen the bottom of the market yet. And again, we could have, this maybe today it was, who knows, but I don't think so. But if I'm wrong, then I would lose a lot of money just maintaining that bias. But me as a day trader, trying to wake up every single day and just trade the markets, starting fresh, forgetting if I won or lost the day before, forgetting what companies are just you just have to kind of build that tolerance to say it's a new day, it's a new start. What happened yesterday? What could we get continuation today, or is today going to be some kind of reversal in some kind of sense? And
Hmm.
if I could at least get that right most of the time, or 51% of the time, that's going to influence the bias for the day as far as um, myself. It's going to allow myself to be patient, to let the trade kind of come to me, as opposed to me trying to chase the
Hmm.
trade, especially in this little bit of a choppy market.
Hmm. Are you verbalizing that to yourself every day? Those thoughts?
Literally every single day,
Okay, so
every
it's actually physically coming out of your mouth.
every single day. Yep. It
Perfect.
also
That's it.
helps. It also helps that I'm on the microphone too, because then I'm kind of verbalizing it. Like for
Yeah.
real life trading, I'm one of the moderators for anybody that's not with real life trading. But I'm on the microphone and I'm just kind of repeating that bias out loud. But same thing. I was off today, and same thing. I'm literally just whether there's an audience or not, because it helps me to reaffirm, be patient. You don't need to make $1 million today. You will make money over time. Like, it doesn't wait for your price. And in this
Mhm.
type of market, you don't have to chase. It's a very choppy market. So just less trades, more patience, and just let the trades come to you. There's no reason to hop into a million trades.
So I want to just point out something that you said here, and that's the whole point that you verbalize that on a daily basis, regularly, and what have you. And first of all, that makes me feel really good because I do the same thing, and that makes me feel like I'm in your caliber.
I don't know if
So
that's a good thing for you, but it's good to have company.
there you go. Because I find myself doing the same thing throughout the day. I will be sitting there and I will be speaking to myself, saying, just be patient, just be patient. I'm going to be patient. I'm waiting for this. And I actually specifically say, I'm looking for this. And I say it out loud. And I say, I'm waiting for this to happen. I'm not going to take a trade until this happens and this happens. So I'm constantly reassuring or saying it out loud so that I'm getting more of my senses involved and keeping those emotions under control as well. Because it's easy to start feeling like, oh, I'm missing a run or starting to see multiple signals and what have you. But if you have a plan and you start verbalizing that out loud, you can really rein in some of those emotions and build that tolerance and build that patience that we're talking about right now. So I think that is one of the skill sets that more seasoned, successful traders do. I may be wrong, but I mean, you have two people sitting right here that are successful with what they do, and we have similar habits. So I would venture to guess that those would be two habits that would be worth investigating for yourself if you're struggling, right?
Yeah, well, they tell you to with affirmations, stand in front of the mirror, tell yourself
Hmm.
money's coming my way, all this stuff. And whether you buy into that camp or not, I mean, there's probably some validity into that. And really, what we're doing is kind of no different.
Hmm.
In the same sense that what if you hear something out loud, you tend to want to believe it a little bit more, right? If
Hmm.
it's internal, you still get I not that you want to believe it more if it's out loud, but I think it's just more reassuring. Where if it's still internal, if you're afraid to say something out loud, you probably have a lot of self doubt about what that position is, right? So it kind of
Hmm.
just gives you the confidence to say again. I mean, the market's open right now. Do I need to take a trade right now?
Hmm.
Would the market be okay if I didn't even take a trade this week? Is there a better time where I could take a trade next week?
Hmm.
Right? But the market, you feel like you're going to work that day. You feel like you want to just jump into something, and if you're sitting there in a choppy market, you're going to make more money by not trading than if you do, because a lot of times you're going to just get wicked into things, wicked out of things. You're not really following your plan, and then once the market does set up, we get that break in the market to have a bullish run during a bear market. You're out of funds. You don't have the right mentality. You're still trying to chase things at that point, and it becomes very very difficult. So yeah, just for me, I think if I was to just relay that message to myself, as I think today we're going bullish. I think Tesla at this price point is the place to buy because of this. I'm really just reconfirming my thoughts on the day. And again, I could still hop in that trade and it doesn't work. And guess what? I'm not going to trade Tesla probably for the rest of the day because my initial thought process is wrong.
Hmm.
And who am I to now flip that position and just start chasing the opposite direction? Now I'm back and forth and I'm completely lost in the market. So if I could get into it at my price, it triggers me. I got my stop in place. If it never happens, oh well, I missed a great move. Somebody else made money, and that's equally as well, right? I mean, they'll take me shopping, I guess. But it's all a lot of the market. A huge part of the market is mindset, and to
Hmm.
have the right mindset in the market and the right ability to have the patience and just confidence to make a stance on your position and say I've back traded my plan. I know what my plan is. I know I'm a good trader. I was able to increase my R's because I was able to trade consistently. Falling back on that is a huge plus in the market for sure. And I mean, if someone's listening, today's day one of trading, they don't have that ability yet, and it's going to take some time to grow. But just the more you do it, like anything else, just the more comfortable it becomes, and picking up those little habits that others might find weird. I mean, so be it. I'll be weird all day and just still trade the markets the way I trade the markets. I mean, it's not a team sport, so it kind of works out.
Fair. Fair enough. Now you just said something that I really want to highlight, and I like it a lot. And that was the fact that sometimes you'll make more by not trading in the markets than if you were trading in the markets. And I think that's something that gets overlooked quite often is we think that as traders, the object is to always be making money in the market. And we forget about the other aspect of it, which is also capital protection. And that is something that we don't pay attention to. So sometimes less is more. In fact, most of the time less is more. And being very picky and choosy about uh, what trades you're going to take can be actually a sign of a better trader than overtrading, right? We've talked about that many times, but
Yeah,
anyway,
100%.
I just wanted to highlight that. So thank you. So is there anything else that you're struggling with, or you're pretty good?
Um, I think that probably would be the biggest thing for me is just
Hmm.
how to just because I'm a stubborn person in general, I guess, just my born German personality, I think. But um, yeah, I would think that's the biggest thing. A lot of times I step on my own feet as far as, and then when I get into a trade, I'm just so pumped to take the profits, and I'm like, oh, I could have let it run, but it is what it is. That would be the biggest thing. And then obviously, I mean, the same thing probably with everybody else. I mean, I'm a big believer in the long term,
Hmm.
and every single month I think probably a couple of years ago I would have been more terrified. Like I don't even really honestly care if recession happens at this point. I care for the overall economy, and I know there's people that I'm not rooting for a recession, but if it happens, I think I'm more prepared this time if it does than if it happened back in 2018, 2008. Just because I know a lot more in the market, I've been doing this for a lot longer. I've been
Hmm.
kind of redefining the plans a little bit, and I know in recession it's still going to hurt. The account's going to go down, but you wake up every day and you kind of see that little red. You're like, oh man, you just kind of second guess it. But I've kind of turned the negative to a positive. I mean, I because of how I set up the long term plan and how I do it. I mean, I'm excited things are on sale or
Hmm.
getting closer and closer to a very good valuation of things. So um, even though you start to see the reds drip into your account, try not to let that affect your daily perception every single day. You don't have to make back what you lost in the long term. Um, you don't have to trade at all that day. Just stick to the overall plan. But uh, I don't think I think there was one time. I mean, they're saying this is the worst opening first half to a year since like 18 1986 or something like that. So just be aware of that. Like these are not normal conditions, and if you wake up every day, somebody punches you in the face every time you open the door. Eventually, one time, there's not going to be anybody standing there, and you're still waiting to get punched in the face. Like you're just expecting it at some point. But you gotta kind of look. You gotta kind of see the positive of where things are at 10 years from now,
Hmm.
15 years from now, 20 years from now, even 2 3 years from now. I mean, we have no idea where the market's going to be, but you have to stick to the overall trend, overall plan that you have to be successful. But I think this market and possible recession is actually going to be one of the greatest opportunities that we probably get um, for a very long time.
Well, I tell you, until you've been trading, I'd say 30 years, it's highly unlikely that you've seen everything that the market has to throw at you. So,
Hmm.
prepare for it. It's not going to always be the same, and for you to expect that it will is setting yourself up for failure, disappointment, and a blown out account, really, because you have to realize that the markets don't, they're cyclical, they change, all sorts of different factors impact it, and you have to be ready to adapt. So it's about longevity in this game, being able to maintain your composure and your account long enough to last that 20 or 30 years. So, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Before we I see we're running out of time. Was there anything else that you are currently struggling with in the market? Anything else uh, that keeps Tracy Ball awake at night?
Nothing that keeps me awake at night, but I have had to make some modifications because, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, I have a one of my tips that I use is pulling from my swing trading account to start my months out positive or whatever. And I am virtually in almost all cash, and I've been in cash for some time. I don't typically trade the markets bearish just because of the type of accounts that I have for my longer term or my swing trades. I'm not able to do so without a lot of option strategies, and I'm not a real big options trader. So I don't have that cushion to fall back on to lock in some profit at the beginning of each month. So I've had to deal with starting from scratch just about every month. And as we've talked about that in previous episodes, that can be a mental barrier that we have to overcome. So I'm just finding that this is the year of really testing some of the personal development that I've been doing over the last couple of years. It's really testing it to see if it's good change, if it's long term change, or if it was just short term change. But I'm finding that my resolve is it's holding there. I'm growing very quickly with all of this personal development that I've been doing and recognizing, okay, that's a little area that maybe I need to work on a little bit more, but some of these other areas, yay, congratulations, I've made it through to the other side. And that's a good feeling for me anyway. It's a good feeling. But I think this, like I said, this is the year for testing some of that resolve that I have. So, and I welcome it,
100%.
right? It's just going to make me a better trader out at the other end, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. So,
Every hurdle that we do gets us close to that finish line, right? So
absolutely. Yeah.
we're,
And I'll never
I
stop
mean,
learning.
no, no. I mean, if you ask anybody that's financially set or wealthy what their greatest asset is, it's the ability to learn. I mean, as humans, we don't know everything, but we have the ability to learn anything.
Hmm.
So it's pretty crazy to think about. But we are just about out of time. We do have the contest for this month. I don't know if you want to just cover some of the rules. We've had some great entries so far coming in. Super pumped for this one. But yeah, if you want to just kind of drop down the law one more time, and we'll wrap it from there.
Yeah. So basically, these challenges that we've been throwing out there for you guys is to really help you this year go through the process of developing yourself as a trader. And we started out by, creating a trading plan and then back trading that trading plan. And now after you back trade the trading plan for this time's challenge, which is due at the end of July, we're basically asking you to know your number. Because now that you've gone through the work and you've back traded your trading plan, that data that you've accumulated can then be used to help you create or adjust or create rules in your trading plan or adjust rules in your trading plan or create benchmarks for you to assess your performance month to month, week to week, day to day. And so the know your number is this time's challenge. Basically, you need to know what your average win is, what your average loss is, and this is in the R system. And if you don't know what the R system is, you can reach out to either Dan at reallifetrading.com or Tracy at reallifetrading.com. We'd be happy to explain it to you. Or you can look up some of our other podcast episodes because we have discussed it in detail of what the R is. But if you could send in what your average R is for a win, average R is for a loss, how many consecutive wins or losses that you would get within your trading plan, what your average gain would be. I already said that one, I think. What was some of the other? Do you remember any of the other benchmarks that we would thought were important? Your
Yeah,
average
it's
win,
pretty
your
much.
average, oh, your win percentage. That's the other one.
Yep. Yep. Just
So,
knowing where knowing your benchmarks, knowing where you were
mhm,
at as a trader, those and how to interpret those are going to be it's going to help develop anybody to really understand their trading platform and their trading strategy and plan. It's also going to point out the obvious as to where you're going to start to be like, yeah, maybe I should tweak my plan because of this going forward. I think this would make stronger place to focus on certain types of setups or trades or stocks in general that maybe
absolutely.
maybe didn't stand out in the first place. But we are just about out of time. Tracy, always a pleasure to be hosting the Pivot Podcast with you. And we want to thank everybody once again, each and every week, for listening and tuning in to the Real Life Trading Pivot Podcast. That's a tongue twister today. I came back from a break, so you guys got to give me a break. We do have the links below, though. You can check out Real Life Trading. We got all the free education online, and we got some links to some of the other courses and things like that. And you guys are always welcome to trade with us live in the markets each and every week. We will see you on the next Pivot Podcast.